Hey, what's going on, everybody? And welcome to another episode of Legacy's Journey. I am your host, Cameron Williams, where we just want to get into some different things in regards to financial strategy. Matter of fact, that's how we help marketing agencies by giving them strategic financial growth so that way they can live the life that they want to and not be a slave to their business. Now, I told y'all, season two, we're going to go searching. We're going to go fishing. We're going to go hunting for the best of the best. We wanted to step it up, get you better guests than we had in season one. And I think we had some pretty good guests. So, put my feelers out there. I told my network, I need y'all to send me some names. And one of the people that was super quick to jump on it was this guy named Johnathan. Now, Jonathan's like, hey, I'm super excited. Let's rock it. I run two agencies. So I got a lot of experience. I think he's been in the game for over 13 years. So, ladies and gentlemen, introducing to you guys Johnathan. What's going on today, good sir?
Well, Cameron, thank you so much for letting me on the podcast. I'm excited to chat with you today. And yeah, I've been in the agency game a long time. I always say I earned all this white hair. I sold my first website back in 1995, actually, and then
Oh,
started my first agency in 2010. And just recently, this past summer, after almost 13 years running that agency with an amazing team, I had the blessing to be able to step back and start another agency to kind of take everything I've learned over the last 13 plus years and try to do it again, but do it faster. So I'm in the midst of that right now, having an absolute ball and just again trying to take the best of the things that I've learned over the last 13 years as it relates to running an agency and recreate that. And now it's fun. I still do consulting for my first agency, and I'm having a ball. We're actually in a race to see who gets to eight figures first.
oh, okay. Now tell them the name of both businesses. Just, people be, oh, I'm going to fact check this guy. Let them know you legit. So you've been in it 13 years. Name
Yep.
of business one is?
Valorous Circle. It's Valorous. Founded in
Okay.
November of 2010. And we
Okay.
began as a web design agency and then migrated into a full fledged digital marketing agency over the years.
Okay. And then tell them the name of business two.
Business two, right on the sign here, White Beard Strategies, and that's the one we started this summer and growing well. My goals are never. My wife always tells me my goals are too big, so I haven't hit all my goals yet, but we're doing well. We just landed our 51st client last week, 5 months
Ooh.
in, so we're excited about that and really having a ball. I'm loving life.
Okay, now see, now I gotta make my notes. All right, let me get my phone because we're gonna come back to that one. 5 months in, let me see. I just really value that we bring a lot of humble people on here because you see how casually he said, "Oh, only been doing it 5 months, and we just signed our 51st client." So I'm gonna just make this note because we're gonna come back to that. Now, in the meantime, let's start from the beginning. So
Sure.
tell the people what was your relationship with money like growing up? Because we often see it's one or two tracks. It's either parents had it, so there was abundance there, never really worried about it, never really had a struggle, or hey, it was a little rough. I knew not to ask for a lot. It was a struggle to get it, and I had to kind of work my way to where I am now. Which one would you fall
I'm probably going to say I fall a little bit in between. So my parents,
in?
my grandfather before that, have all been small business people.
Mhm.
They owned their own businesses, and I grew up in an environment where, my parents owned a retail store back in, I'm 54 now, so that was back in the 1970s and 80s, and I grew up in that environment. So I grew up in an environment where self-employment was normal, but they were not wealthy by any means. In fact, I remember realizing when I got to be in high school that wow. I never really thought about it much because we never felt like we were wanting, but my parents struggled a lot more than I realized. They just didn't necessarily share that with us. And so as I got into high school, I remember one time particularly they'd had a really tough year in business, and I remember I was old enough. I got a job. I actually went out and it's going to sound really odd, but I wanted cereal in the morning and we didn't have any. And so I went to the grocery store and bought a couple boxes of cereal. I'll never forget my dad. It broke his heart. And I didn't realize it at the time. He didn't have we had enough money to eat, but he didn't have enough money to buy the cereal that I wanted. And when I went out and bought it myself, it just broke his heart that he hadn't been able to provide that at the time was a couple dollar box of cereal as opposed to the cheap cornflakes that were in there that I didn't want to eat.
As a dad, I can see how that could hurt because it's like, dang, I'm supposed to be able to just, here's the money, here you go. And my guy had to go get it himself. Like, I can see how that hurt Pops right
Oh, I do too. I was proud because I'm like, hey, I wanted the Frosted Flakes, and I was working, so no big deal. I'll buy them, and I probably said more about it than I should have to my dad, not realizing it was going to really ding his pride in that factor. So we definitely did not come from abundance, but we also didn't want for anything we needed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, okay. Now that's good. Now, what was it like when you made your first sale? So now you started working in high school, so there's some college time, but you said you didn't start the business until 2010, but you've been doing it ever since 95. So 95 to 2010, what was happening there?
So I was working for other people over that time frame, and mainly in sales and marketing. Loved what I did. Had early in my career, I went to college. Realized that I'm probably not one of the best college people because I want to just get out and work. I grew up in a small business family. I wanted to be working. It's always something I've enjoyed doing. And never forget, I went out and got a sales job and managed to get fired 3 months later. Never, ever imagined that I could get fired. And I'll never forget hearing my boss basically tell me that, you've got a lot of potential, kid, but you're not pulling your weight. And that was a real turning moment for me. I mean, I was in my early 20s at the time. I'm like, what am I going to do? And I decided to let it motivate me and really move on. So I started learning a lot more about sales, started really applying myself, and then worked for others and spent most of my 20s, I should say, working for other people, helping them create sales for their companies. And that worked out pretty well. And then in my late 30s, early 40s, I'd have to look back on exactly, is when I decided to go out on my own with the encouragement of my wife. She's like, hey, you're selling for all these companies. You've got all these ideas of things they're not doing. Why don't you just go do it yourself? And like, okay, let's do it. And so 2010, we founded Valorous Circle, or I founded Valorous Circle and started taking off. And yeah, I mean, thankfully, we're able to start making sales almost right away. We were cash flow positive within the first couple months. And then, worked really hard to figure out how to scale that, because then I realized it was going to work. I'll never forget sitting down with our attorney, probably about a year into the business, and the attorney said, so, normally when I'm meeting with people, and he'd helped us with our contracts and all that, we're talking about, is the idea going to work? You guys have validated the idea works. You're making money. Now, what do you want to do with it? Where do you see yourself 10, 15 years down the road? What's your goal? And at the time, my goal was just to make a paycheck. And then he really prompted me to think about, okay, this is about more than making a paycheck. It's about building a legacy. It's about building a lifestyle. And really, since that point in time, it's changed the way I've looked at that long-term gain and game and how I wanted to play it.
Yeah, okay. He just said a ton of good stuff right there. So, the fact that you were able to flip sales experience from where it could have just, oh man, I'm terrible and how dare I, like I should just never do this again and go be something else, to be able to take that, flip it, go help other people with their sales, and then turn it into something that can drive your business. Kudos there.
Thank you.
Um, and then you jumped ahead to one of our questions, which would have been, how was success defined for you? You said, hey, success was just, I just need to pay the bills. Like, let's just start
Yeah,
with
that's
basic.
how it started. Absolutely.
And then now, I mean, clearly, when you've been in the game 13 years, you clearly can pay bills. That's amazing. Okay, now you said something good here, so let's go back just a little bit. Now you said you talked to wifey,
Yep.
and she encouraged you to do it, because normally we would say, well, how was the wife when you came up with this idea? So apparently, this was her idea.
Well, when I'll never forget when we met, we're very different people. She's an operational genius, and I'm not. I'm a sales and marketing guy. I'm the ADD guy that's got lots of ideas. And prior to this, when we met and we were dating, I'll never forget, we were on, I don't know, one of our early dates, and we're driving down the road, and she looks at me and she goes, "You need to stop telling me everything that's on your mind." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" She goes, "You have ideas all day long." And she goes, "Every time you have an idea and share it with me," she goes, "I'm an operational person and I'm now trying to figure out how to implement it. How are we going to do this?" And she goes, "By the time I start figuring out how to implement it, you're already at 3 ideas ahead of me. You've moved on, because that's not how I look at things. I'm kind of just skipping stone on the top of the water. Ooh, that's cool. That's cool. That's cool." Fast forward a number of years, again, I'd worked for other people, had been very successful in sales, had done well, and had always been near or at the top of the sales teams, that I worked on. And but I had expressed frustration to her, and I think she just got sick and tired of me being frustrated and said, "If you know a better way, go do it." And so she was definitely the wind in my sail. An old mentor told me once, your significant other can be an anchor on your boat, or they can be the wind in your sails. And I'm very blessed to have a wife who's very much the wind in my sails.
Now that's some good balance right there. Um, I could just see her. Just I can see my wife like, okay, can we stop with the idea? That's hilarious. But to your point, you know that that's the good balance that you guys need, because apparently she's good enough to where she's running VC now, because you
She
said it's
does. Yeah,
still
she
running,
she
right?
she owns and runs it. She actually, so after about a year or so in business, I realized that if, again, we'd had that discussion with the attorney, and it's like, okay, well, this is going to be more than a job. If I want it to be more than a job, I need to bring in experts around me that know things that I don't. And I was old enough to know that I'm a sales and marketing guy, but I'm not an operational person. And so I wasn't good at managing the teams. I wasn't good at figuring out how we were going to bring and hire new people on, and that they had the resources they needed, because I assumed at the time everybody was like me, and that's it. We're bouncing all over, and you had lots of ideas, and you were just going to do what it took to get done, because I'd learned that as a kid with my dad. My dad was very similar. He just did whatever had to be to get done. That didn't matter whether it was 4 hours a day or 40 hours in a day and a half. I mean, he would do what it took to get done. And that's kind of the way I was. As we started growing and started making some money at Valor Circle, I realized very quickly, if I didn't bring in somebody that understood how to run a business, then it was going to be me and two other people who were always going to be looking for a job, because my personality, well, I don't want to say it drives people nuts. I bounce around. I've got ADD. I got diagnosed at 43 with ADD. So I bounce around. I've got, squirrel, and I'm off to something else. I needed somebody to pull that together to help not only rein me in, but also really manage the business, because it's not something I'm good at.
And I've learned that that's super important. That as you continue to grow and scale and make more money, you have to be very self aware to know who you can and can't put in the right places, when it's the right time to bring them on. So the fact
Absolutely.
that this person was right in your house probably saved you a lot of researching and recruiting uh,
It
time as
it
well.
it was a negotiation, as you can imagine, and working with your spouse has its ups and its downs. Although we've done really well with it over the years, I'll never forget the discussion that we had when, and she started working for me, and we had a 3-year-old son at the time, and she had been a managing editor for a publisher, was doing well, and she wanted to spend more time with her son. So I'm like, "Hey, come work for me. We were making enough money. Come work for me," and she did. She found lots of problems and lots of issues, because, of course, I wasn't very good on processes at that point. And at one point, I remember we had a discussion, and she's like, "We can make this grow and we can turn this into something, but only one of us can be in control." And I'm like, "That's no problem. I'm good with being in control." And she goes, "No, you don't understand, hon." She goes, "Only one of us can be in control, and it ain't you." And so I actually sold her the company in 2014 officially, so that she
Wait,
owned it
you
and
sold
everything
it to
else.
her?
I sold it to my wife, yeah. And people go, what are you talking about? But we both needed that, so that we had the right guardrails. I talked earlier about our attorney, and we've had attorneys and accountants that we've worked with. We really believe in having and surrounding ourselves with that professional advice. And they said, if you're going to make this work as a married couple, you guys have to both stay in your lane. You need to know what you're good at, Johnathan, and you need to stay there. And Beth, you need to do what you're good at and stay there. And knowing that I was not the operational person, I was never going to be good at HR and all that. And, I was going to be the guy when the IRS sent the tax forms, they'd go on my desk and I'd get to them, but I never would. And she'd be the one that would get them and get them back. And we'd be in, do what we need to do. She took care of paperwork. I hated paperwork, still do to this day. So that counsel from our attorney and our accountants, and that really helped us say we need to put a structure in place if we want this business to grow. We can't just do it from the seat of our pants, because it's never going to grow and scale if we just run this by the seat of our pants.
I'm still stuck on you sold it to her. Like, how does like did you pay her? This is probably so personal, but I like really need to know. Did you pay her? Because in my head, it's like it's just gonna go to the same bank account. So like, did you pay her?
No, I mean, she when at the time she was an employee on staff getting paid, absolutely, and then she ended up paying me to buy the company, and we went through our attorney and drafted all the paperwork and changed the legal ownership on the company. And that was important for her because it had been, and it makes sense to me now, years later, I'd founded the company. And so she looked and said, well, it's your company because you founded it. She needed that approval, something that would validate to her that she now was in control of the company. And that didn't mean I didn't have a role. I don't mean to say that at all. We definitely worked together on a lot of things. But the fact that she's now still running the company after I've departed, to me, is just a testament to her skills. In that, yes, we worked in tandem, as many people do in companies, but at the end of the day, she had control of the finances, she had control of that, and she ultimately had the buck stops at her door. Because when I had some crazy idea, and I'm known to have them every day, she was the one that could draw me back and go, no, we're not going to do that. And that was really important, because that focus that she brought allowed us to scale. If I'd been left to my own devices, and again, I've learned a lot over the last 13 years, but if I'd been left to my own devices, we'd be doing 27 different things. The company would have never grown. We would have never become a 7-figure agency. We would have never built a team of people up, because I would have always had a new idea of something I wanted to pursue, and that would have precluded our growth.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. I respect it. All right. So, dang, had I known this, I'd have been like, you should have bought her too. Let's talk about what is it like to work with your spouse? Because to your point, two different people. You got to keep it separate from like when we're off the clock, nobody's the boss of anybody. So,
Yep.
what is that like balancing? Because now at this point, two successful companies, she's running one, you're running one.
Hmm.
How do you keep that balance? How do you keep it like work time is work? Other than that, we're on boo time, going on dates, etc. How hard is it, or it may not be? Is it a challenge to keep that balance?
You have to be purposeful about it. Yes. I mean, I don't want to say it's hard. First of all, we're both very pragmatic people, which helps out in the process. But we have a couple rules in just our work and marriage relationship. One is that if it's after 8 o'clock at night, we don't talk business unless the other person agrees to talk business. So pretty much from the time we get up in the morning until 8 o'clock at night, it's business, personal, whatever. It's no problem. But after 8 o'clock at night, when we just picked that time because it worked for us, if we need to talk business at 10 o'clock at night, and I'm gangster to do it because I'm excited and everything else, and she's in the middle of doing something else, we don't talk about it, because both of us need to be willing to talk about it. Now, when we do date nights every month or every week, we go out once a week. We make sure we protect it, like going to church on Sunday. We make sure that we do it. It's really important to invest in that relationship. At the same point, probably half the time or more, we're talking about work, because work is a big part of our lives. It's something both my wife and I enjoy doing. I probably enjoy it more than she does. She would probably say, I'm one of those guys, I'm never going to retire because I love what I do. When I was a young man, my grandfather told me, if you want to be successful in life, and he was more successful than my father, financially at least, he said, if you want to be successful, he says, you have to do something you love, because if you get up every day and hate going to work, you can't be successful at it. And I never forgot that. And
I mean, that's
I've
pretty
always
legit.
I've always done things that I enjoy doing. And I love helping other people. I love helping other people succeed. And so being a digital marketing agency was great, because when we're doing our job well, Cameron, we're helping our clients succeed, and that brought a lot of value to me and excitement and fun. I always kid. I've got four things in my life that are super important: God, my family, my business, and motorcycles. And those are really my big things that I like to do, and those all get time in my life. And obviously the motorcycles at the lowest end of that priority, but they all weave in together. It's no different than I took a motorcycle ride this past weekend because it was beautiful and it was in the low 70s and sunny out. I loved it. And while I'm out there, I'm listening to some training and some audible books and things like that I love, but I get to get away from everything, and that's my way of doing it. So I try to combine what I do because it is truly what I enjoy. I love the work that I do.
That makes sense right there. That makes sense. Okay, now let's keep going. Now this is good. This is good. All right, next question. Now, when you made your first sale, what was it like? Can you go back to 2010
Yep.
when you made that first sale? What were those feelings like? Was it, yes, I can do this? I'm shocked. Like, do you remember what those emotions were?
I do. And I'm sorry you asked me that earlier and I went down a rabbit hole as I'm known to do. So apologies about that. That first
It's
sale,
all
no, I
good.
still remember it today. I felt totally validated at that point in time. It's like, okay, this is going to work. I just found a stranger who was interested enough in what I had to offer and had a problem that I could solve. And on top of it, they were willing to pay me money to solve that problem. And to me, that was just like all of a sudden the horizon opened up, and I'm like, I got this. As long as I can find people that are willing to pay me to solve their problems, this is going to work.
Okay. Okay. What about your biggest one? And you don't have to tell us the client name or even the amount unless you want to, but tell us about the biggest sale to date. Tell us about the feeling surrounding it, what set it up the whole night.
Happy to do it. I won't mention the client, but so I have two of them come to mind. One when I was at Valor Circle, and another one here at Whitebeard Strategies, being new. I'll start with the most recent at Whitebeard Strategies. So one of my biggest sales that I made was actually to a coach that I've worked with, who's become a mentor to me over the last number of years. And this is a coach that I pay to help me build my business. And one day he reached out and he said, "Hey, I see what you're doing. You've been talking about it. I want you to do this for me." And I remember just being so grateful and amazed that this man who runs a business that I totally respect, that I've, entrusted to guide me, actually came back and said, "I see so much value in what you're doing. I want to pay you to do it for me." And that was just like, it was like this massive, massive win to me that I'd earned his trust and respect to do that. Back at Valor Circle, I remember, the single largest sale that we ever closed there. It was for it was for a complex website, and it was many years ago, but it was about $80,000. And, for a website back then, that was pretty good money, and definitely more than we normally charged. And I remember just, I'd worked really hard to get it, and I'd really focused on understanding not only what, in this case, the client was looking to achieve, but also building a relationship with that client to build that know, like, and trust, knowing that that's who people are buying from. They're buying from someone they know, like, and trust.
Okay. Okay. I mean, yeah, 80K. I mean, that's some people's like whole salary.
Yeah,
And
no,
like,
absolutely.
well,
Well, and that was probably a decade ago. So, that was good money for a website back 10 years ago.
man, what? Okay. Next question. All right. So now you talked about this earlier. You said it's been 5 months since you started Whitebeard,
Yep.
and now you have over 51 clients,
Yep.
or right at 50.
I
We'll just
have
say
50.
over
Yeah, I
50.
have 51 right now. Yep.
Okay. Which means you have to have a good team. I know that means it's not just you doing all the fulfillment. So tell us, how have you grown your team over time to be able to give this kind of service?
Great question. So, our team is really probably smaller than you might imagine. It is me, an absolutely amazing virtual assistant, and leveraging a lot of AI technology to make sure that we're doing that. So we're delivering all of that with two people right now.
Two people in AI.
Two people, myself, my assistant, who's amazing, and I always feel the need to explain when we hire assistants, I'm not looking for, and nothing against anybody in any country, but I'm not looking for the $3 an hour person that's offshore. I'm looking for somebody who's super confident. My assistant does happen to be offshore. She lives in South Africa, but she's amazing, and she's got tremendous skills, and that allows us to leverage that combined with AI to make sure that we're both being more efficient. We get a tremendous amount of work done. I'm a big fan of AI. I do a lot of speaking on it and that, and we've leveraged it and intentionally built it into our new agency in order to help us scale.
Okay, see now I gotta get on my notes. Okay, two team members plus AI. All right, now let's get into that. And you said so much. Okay, let's talk about the first thing you said, which was no offense to the people who want to go pay $3 overseas.
No,
We have we've heard that issue, right? And that's a big thing in the marketing space where people think, it doesn't matter, just outsource it to somebody overseas in the Philippines or in India or wherever. And I tell people all the time, you have to be very careful with who you're going to place in whatever seat. There are some tasks, right? Like maybe social media management, like to go post stuff or do outreach or some light sales stuff. But what would you say? Because remember, y'all, I just want to highlight this again because he's super humble with it. Two successful companies. So he's not guessing, he's not making this up. What would you say are some key factors of knowing whether to hire people from overseas or local talent?
well, and over the years, I've worked with both. Valor Circle, for example, has a team that is both U.S. based staff and offshore staff. It's a combination. That's actually a fairly new thing. I mean, I don't believe that Valor Circle hired its first offshore person until I believe it was actually 2023. I think it was the beginning of 2023, maybe the end of 2022. We had always said, we're going to be US based. That's how we're going to roll. We're going to make sure that it's done that way. And unfortunately, I don't want to blame it on COVID, but about the time that COVID happened, and certainly since then, we've realized it's much harder to find people that are willing to work. Everybody that wants to work, and I'm making a generalization, and I apologize if you need a job, reach out because I know people that are hiring. But whether it's myself or my peers or the people that I know in business world, everybody seems to have the same story. And that's it. If you want to find somebody who values their job, that's willing to work and willing to put in the effort, doesn't mean they've got to go crazy, but that's willing to give you a good solid 40 hours a week at work, they're already working in a job they like. And it's really hard to find people that are not working that truly want to work 40 hours a week and give you a good 40 hours for that time. We've always been big on the fact that when you're working and you're focused and you're adding value to the company. And when you're not, you're off the clock. I don't expect my employees to work after hours. I don't expect them to work on the weekends. I designed my agencies because I don't want to work on the weekends. So certainly don't want my team to have to do that.
Right.
That's not incongruent. So, we decided to look offshore only because we were having a very difficult time finding people in the US to do what we wanted. And we learned in the process, again, there's different, just like in the US, there's different people you can hire. There's people that are really good at what they do. And those are not the people you hear the stories about that are, $3 an hour from the Philippines that are going to make your business run. I'm not saying they can't do it, but if you try it, you're going to find out that you get what you pay for. So even our
Yeah.
offshore staff makes very, very good money for wherever the locale that they're in. And that's because we want the best of the best in there. And you can get that and you can do that. You asked me advice. My advice, whether to do it, when to do it, when you need the help, it's a great way to scale, but don't go the cheap route. Don't try to find the cheapest person because it's no different than if you're hiring in your community. I'm down in Alabama, you're over in Georgia, Cameron. If we try to find the cheapest possible person in the areas that we live to deliver for us, we're going to get cheap results. It's not going to work. The same is
Right.
true if you want to go offshore. You may be able to save some money. There are other issues that come up as far as communications and timing and all that, but don't cheap out because you're not going to be happy with the results.
Hmm. Anything that you could say are maybe some flags or things to watch out for? Because some people may say, well, I need to get a new account manager or a new CEO or COO or project manager or something like that. You haven't done this to companies. You would say, okay, if it's going to hit maybe certain qualifications, you may be easier. It may be easier for you to look overseas versus if it's these kind of positions, I would highly suggest staying local.
So one of the things that we decided very early on is if it was a customer facing position, because most of our customers are in North America, if it's customer facing, they need to be fluent in English. And just the reality is most of our clients, Comcast has ruined it for everybody. They don't want to talk to somebody out of Pakistan. Nothing wrong with Pakistan. I've got a couple employees there. They're brilliant people. They're very, very good workers, but they have an accent that drives most Americans nuts because we've waited on hold on Comcast or whomever to try to get customer service, and they were not empowered by the company to give us any service, and so we had a
That's right.
negative experience. And so
Yes.
again, that's nothing against anybody there. One of the most brilliant guys I work with lives in Pakistan, and he's
Right.
very, very good at what he does, but he's not customer facing. In other words, he's not regularly talking to clients. Our account managers, they all are based either in the US or they're based out of South Africa at this point. And the reason we like South Africa is because almost everybody there speaks fluent English. They call it a Commonwealth accent. And unfortunately for them, they have high unemployment right now, but that means that the people that we're able to hire there are very motivated to work and they're very motivated to do a good job. Their education system, at least in the areas that we're in, is also very good. We're able to get highly educated people that know things, are very good at communications, and are able to, again, work within our team. The other tip I'll give on that is, and we found this out the hard way, different people have different opinions. I know some successful agencies disagree, but everybody
Uh-oh.
works on our time zone. So
Oh, okay.
if you're working for us, my team in South Africa is, I think, 8 hours ahead of us right now. So as we're recording this, it's about 10 in the morning. That means it's about 6 o'clock at night for them. They started work 2 hours ago. So they work from 4 until like 11. That's just their schedule, or 4 to midnight. That's what they work for us. We make it worth their while. We pay them well. We provide a great environment, but that is a requirement because then we can collaborate like you and I are right now, Cameron, and we can do that all day long.
Right, right. And we do the same thing. Our team is in the Philippines. And that was my only thing. I'm like, hey, because I forget somebody asked, I don't know if it was on their interview, and I don't even know if it's one of my people, but they were like, well, could we work opposite after like a month or two? I'm like, no. Because, if we need something or if a client needs something to be addressed, they're not going to be up at 3 a.m.,
Right.
just because it's your normal time. So you have to be available, and I think they call theirs like the night shift. But
Yep.
my team, at least as far as I know, I mean, I haven't asked in a while, but they're just like, yeah, we're fine. We just need to go take a break so we can eat something since it's late.
Yeah, and it's I've got an agency owner who I respect a lot who actually does not agree with this. They think that let them work their local time because they're going to be off. I look at my oldest son. My oldest son is 29 years old. He's a mechanic for Delta Airlines, and he works third shift. He's worked it for years. He still has a great family life. He still has everything else. He's not necessarily tired when he's at work simply because he's working third shift. That's when the planes need to be worked on, and that's the shift he likes to work. And he still provides a lot of value to Delta, and he still can be a great employee. So I don't believe they have to work their 8 to 5 their time zone because look around. If I go to Walmart to buy groceries or wherever I'm going to go down here, we're getting used to, we just moved, so we're getting used to new grocery stores. At 9 o'clock at night, those are not the same people that were there at 8 in the morning. They're working different shifts too. It's just part of life today.
Yeah, yeah. That's good. That's good. Okay. Now, let's get into one of my favorite questions. Now, we asked you before we started the call, and we know that you have an accountant that's helping you to grow your business. Tell us
100%.
what are some of the cool things that they're doing, or even suggesting that's going to help you to get to your goals. Because for those of you who don't know, him and the wife are in competition to get to, what was it? It wasn't seven
Eight,
figures. What did
eight,
you say?
eight figures. Yeah. So 8 figures is going to be, and that's on monthly recurring revenue alone. So we're
No
basically
project.
no project work, all monthly recurring revenue. That's how we're building both companies.
Okay. So, what are some of these cool things that the accountant is saying, watch out for, or ooh, make sure you set it up like this, or do that?
I think, more than anything else, first I want to say I really believe in hiring professionals to help me learn things so that I don't have to learn the hard way. And I
Hmm.
know some business owners, depending on, especially if they're starting, they maybe go, why do you hire an attorney? Why do you hire an accountant? Because in the long run, they don't cost me very much money and they provide me with a tremendous amount of value. Hiring those professionals and hiring the right ones makes a huge difference. Our accountants are fantastic because they help us take a look not only at our finances and help make sure that our numbers are in line. So I'm an entrepreneurial ADD guy. I don't like looking at reports and all that. So my accountants are there to help make sure that when we look at our profit and loss and we look at our expenses and we look at all that, are they in line? Do these make sense? I don't want to be the one to go out and do the research and go, how much should my cost of goods sold be when I'm delivering digital marketing services? I don't know. I mean, I can guess, but I'm probably going to be wrong. My accountants, they specialize in this and they can look at it and go, okay, Johnathan, we're getting out of sync here. We need to pull back in. We need to take a look at what we're spending here. Or, wow, we're doing really good. Your costs are way below. Why are they below? Are we missing something? Or are you just doing something super smart? And normally it's we're missing something and maybe we need to invest a little more money. And so they're super helpful in that business planning part, not only to look at what we've done, but to know our goals. We share our goals with our accountants. They know these are the numbers we're trying to hit. This is what we're trying to do. So we always want to do so honestly and ethically. And we know the only way to grow to 8 figures is by really providing tremendous service to our clients. So there's nothing nefarious about this, but we're using their ability to understand the numbers and to understand business. And that's a big part of it. Our accountants are business experts, is helping us then do a better job at running our business and taking a look and helping us pay attention to things that maybe I, in particular, wouldn't be paying attention to.
You know, I couldn't say it any better than that. That's a fabulous reason why. Now, mind you, I keep drilling it because I think it's important enough to say two companies, and he realizes to get where he wants to go, I have to partner with people. And we talked about it earlier, being self aware of our strengths and our weaknesses. And I think that's a perfect standpoint because we were literally talking to a client, was it last week? Because he was thinking about acquiring another company.
Hmm.
And I'm like, all right, now it's time to go get the lawyer
Yep.
because I can help you with the numbers, like, hey, buy in the company, pay out rev share percentage at what quarter. But now you need to go get the lawyer to look over and make it, fancy lawyer lingo.
Yep.
So I think to your point, talking about ROI, it's a good investment over time and the value that you get. I think that's a perfect explanation. And I think we have seen on the podcast people who are scaling and doing really well have somebody trusted that they're partnering with that can give them that extra set of eyes and perspective, and they're all doing really well. Now, let's do the flip side of this question. Tell us your not so favorite accounting or tax horror story.
So I think the my not so favorite horror story was when we got started at Valor Circle over 13 years ago now. Um, Again, I was bootstrapping. I didn't have a ton of money, and I hired an accountant that didn't know what they were doing, and
Jesus.
that was a mistake. I'll never forget. We were
How did you find out that they didn't know what they were doing?
Well, I wasn't sure at first. I had no idea. I mean, it was somebody it was referred to me through the local chamber that I worked with. They actually had become a client, and I'm a big fan of trying to work with my clients whenever possible. So we needed an accountant, and my third client happened to be an accounting firm, and I'm like, hey, let's hire them because they're a client. Let's work together. I still
Right.
believe that makes sense. But we quickly found out we were a year or so into the business, and as we'd started making money, and I don't know when this fits in, Cameron, you know better than I, but there's a point that as an LLC, you can make an election to be taxed as an S corp as opposed to an LLC. I don't remember
Facts.
what all the details to why. I don't really care. That's why I hire accountants, because I want you to be telling me, hey, based upon where you're at, this is an election that you need to make. I
Right.
had attended a seminar and somebody was talking about you need to be understanding with your accountant when to make that election. And I'm like, I
Correct.
don't even know what this is about. So I went to talk to my accountant about it. And I'm like, hey, when do we do this? And she's like, I'm not even familiar with that. And I'm like, okay, I have the wrong person. The good news
Mm,
was it was really early on and it was easy to find out. And she was fortunately honest to tell me she didn't know what I was talking about. And we had a new accountant about 3 months later, um, because we realized we needed someone. Again, I need you to be a professional and knowledgeable about what you do, because I don't want to understand what the S corp election is, let alone whether I need to do it. I want you as my financial advisor and my accountant to look at me and go, it's time we do this, it's time we do that. I was talking with someone the other day, and one of the things our accountants have shared with us is there are certain deductions that we can legally and ethically take when we structure things properly, and that means making conscious decisions about what we're doing, not just willy nilly
yeah.
going, "Oh, let's write that off," but making conscious decisions about that. The timing of purchasing on assets and things like that. Do we purchase them this year or do we purchase them next year? Based on cash flow and tax planning and that type of stuff. And the reality is, whether you like it or not, folks, the government steals a lot of money from us every single year. They call it taxes. And if you're not managing that legally and ethically, then you're missing the boat, because they're always going to want more money than what you necessarily owe them. And you need a professional to help you understand how can you as a business legally and ethically and morally pay your taxes that are due, but not pay any more taxes than are due.
Again, I couldn't have said it better. Been talking about it the past week or two since we're getting closer and closer to tax season. Because to your point, it's like you said, and I think we literally made a post about this either today or yesterday, where you know it's one thing if you owe money. And I think for the beginning business owner, right, the newer person, you may be used to getting a refund. Okay, then you owe a little bit, then you start owing in the tens of thousands.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like we tell people all the time, do you want to owe 15,000 or do you want to owe 35,000? And everybody, of
Exactly.
course, is like, oh, I want to do 15. Well, based on how your company's structured, you're not going to get there unless you do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So I think that's a great lesson to help us newer entrepreneurs. And when I say newer, as in you have been doing this for 13 years, to understand the importance of our finances. Now, we're going to go a little rapid fire here because we know that we're getting close to the end and we want to respect your time. So, rapid fire time. What has been your best investment to date? Like the one
Coaching.
that gives you the biggest ROI?
100% coaching from professionals that know my industry.
Okay, okay. Next question. How has your definition of success changed from when you started to now? Because you said at the beginning, I just want to pay my bills, make sure me and babe, we're good. Now, what does success look like for you?
Success to me has changed, and now I'm really looking at what can I give back. How can I earn enough that I can be just immensely generous, and not that I want the credit for it, but I want to be able to give back. And I know that it's now not just about taking care of me. I don't have a big house, I don't have a brand new truck, none of that type of stuff. That doesn't matter to me personally. If you like it, that's great. I've got a great friend, he loves new cars. I don't care. um, I love to give back and I love to give things away. And so right now, success has really changed into not just making enough to get by, but making enough to be immensely generous with others.
Okay, I like it. Giving back, serving first. All right. Knowing everything you know right now today, if you could go back to your college self
Mm.
and you had like 5 minutes, what would you tell them?
Don't get married too young. And when you start business, focus on one thing until it's successful, period.
Okay. That, That was very, I feel like you practiced that answer at some point.
I've been asked it before, and again, being ADD, I'm the guy that bounces around and has always got ideas. And some of the best advice I've ever gotten is, Johnathan, you're never going to be wildly successful if you keep pursuing every idea you have, because you, as a human being, certainly as who I am, as Johnathan Mast, I cannot do 27 things at once. I cannot be successful trying to run 27 businesses. I run one business. It's what I do. I do it well. I serve my clients and I focus on that. And even within that business, I've got new ideas all the time. Ooh, we could do this. Ooh, we could do that. And that's exciting. I have to tell myself, no, this is what you do. This is what you're focused on. Even my new agency, we provide one primary service. That's it. And that works very well. And it's allowed us to scale and grow, because as we've grown, even over the last 5 months, I'm not trying to sell 17 different things to different people. I sell one thing to one group of people. We do it exceptionally well. And those that want that pay us to do it. Those that don't think we're crazy. And that's okay. I don't need everybody. I can hit my goal of 8 figures with just over 200 clients.
But most people would, or let me not say most, but there are some people that will counter argue you and say, yeah, but only one service offering, that's not good. You need to have three or four and a low ticket one and a tripwire and all these different things. You would say,
Well, there's nothing wrong with having that, but do that in the right way. So I'll give you an example. I do still pursue some of my other ideas, and I'm launching an online course coming up. It's actually launching next week, and we've got a tripwire offer. It's $49. If you like that, then you can get into a regular coaching session that I do, and it's $49 a month instead of just a $49. And then if you really like that, you can get into our mastermind program, which is expensive, but it's very, very limited. I do that because I get personal enjoyment out of it. If I make money along the way, that's great, but that fits into my generosity and my giving away, because I want to share. I love that. I'd like to make some money along the way too. No, no, not going to, that's fine. But, when it comes to our service, we offer one service. There are 3 price points to it. So it's not like it's just one. You can have a little bit of it, a lot of it, or a ton of it. You get to choose, what do you want based on your goals. But what I found for my team is so important, and for me, if I do 27 different things, my team struggles to believe they're good at it, because they're doing something unique for every single client. If we do the same
right.
thing for every client, they can become an expert. It's always different because every client has slightly different needs, but the work that we do is the processes we follow internally are essentially the same for every client. And that means that they're more efficient, they're happier, they're more comfortable. And I want my team to love what they do, because I want them to stick around. So it's what leads, I believe, to success.
All right. I like that answer. All right. Last two questions. What are two or three things that you do, probably daily, that you would say contribute to your success? Like if I don't do these, my day is probably about to be terrible.
So yeah, probably different than everybody else. But one, I'm a man of faith, and so I spend some time every day doing devotions and praying, because to me that is incredibly important for my faith, and it helps center me and keeps me focused. The other thing that I do every single day without fail is I publish content that adds value to my audience. I have built what I call topical authority, and I really focus on what questions, Cameron, does my audience, the people I want to work with, what are they asking? And I answer a question every single day. Sometimes it takes me 30 seconds on a video, but I do that every single day. Don't always record them every day. Maybe I'll this weekend. We went out. My wife loves antiques. We went out antique shopping. I'm not into antiques. I sat in my truck and I recorded about 18 videos. I'm set for the next 2 weeks. I got my content. But I post something every single day to add value to my audience. And that's the key. I need to add value. I'm not selling. I'm not trying to tell them why they should sign up for my course or hire me. I add value to them. And that has made a tremendous difference, not only in their lives, but in my life as well, because of the rewards that have come along with that.
Man, it's like you giving these perfectly concise worded, and you're a great, great guest. All right,
Thank you.
last question. What has being a business owner taught you about yourself?
I don't know everything. and I'm not good at everything. Probably the more important, I'm not good at everything. When I started in business, I thought I was unstoppable. I was, I there's nothing I couldn't do. I'll figure out a way. That's how I grew up. You figure out a way. It's not that you say you can't.
Right.
But I learned in order to scale and grow a business, I can't do everything. And I need professionals like accountants, like attorneys, in my case, like operational people to help me manage things. Because if it's up to me to manage a project, I'll have the best intentions, but I'm not capable of the organization it takes to do that effectively. You need to be able to look at
Right.
yourself and go, these are the areas I'm good at. Don't hire for that. Find the areas you suck at and hire people to do the things that you're no good at.
Well, I feel like that's a great way to end. So, Jonathan, I want to say thank you for having me, my Frozen cup. Shout out to Frozen. This is what happened when you got kids, for dealing with my sniffles and my cough drops. This is your time, though. This is the end. So, what I want you to do, tell the people if they want to work with you or work with wifey. I don't know if it's a competition, so maybe we're not gonna plug her.
No, it's all
But
good.
if they want to work with you guys, tell them the business name, how they can get, and I guess technically, what's the difference? Like if you want to go to hers, that's because she specializes in this, and mine specializes in this. But we can help you. This is the maybe the industry that we help or the target market. And what's the best way to contact you, whether that's social media, a website, an ebook, or anything like that?
Sounds good. Well, I'll make it really simple. If you like what I've talked about today, you want to know more, reach out to me at jonathanmast.com. It's JONATHAN mast.com. I own the domain. Go there and just schedule a call. I'll talk to you. We'll have a collaboration. We'll find out if we can add value. If I can add value, great. If I can't add value, maybe my wife's company, Valor Circle, can. I work at Whitebeard Strategies with digital marketing agencies and their clients to help them create topical authority so they can become the go-to expert in their niche. If you're a business and you want inbound leads coming in every single week, qualified people to work with you, I may be able to help out. My wife's company, Valor Circle, they work in the home services industry and they help out with traditional digital marketing. If you want to learn more, let me know.
There you go. Do you have like a preferred social media if they want to reach out to you?
I spend a lot of time on Facebook and LinkedIn, so you're welcome to connect with me there. It's easy to find. There's only one Johnathan Mast out there with a big, long white beard. There's multiple of us, by the way, in the marketing field, so make sure you pick the guy with the long white beard. That's me.
All right, and remember, it's Jonathan with an A. So make sure
Yes.
y'all spell it right. Because I want y'all to be like, Cam, I tried to find because you didn't look for the one with the gray beard with the A. That's why. All right, well, Jonathan, again, thank you so much for coming on. I think you dropped plenty of jewels. Let me go back to my notes so I can summarize for us. So, running two companies, wife took over one, talked to us about what it's like to work with your spouse, knowing, hey, I'm good at this, she's good at that, and allowing each other to grow and move in those capacities. How you guys stay together, when to cut on, when to cut off, having agreed upon time, when to not talk about business. The ability to scale, making sure you're choosing the right person, whether that's an overseas role or that's a local role, and what you're kind of looking for depending upon what role needs to be filled. And I think you did a great job of talking about why partnering with a professional is super important because it helps you to stay focused on what you know you're excellent at. And then you just get to pick on them in regards to picking their brain for whatever they're great at. So, again, thank you so much for coming on, dropping all the gems. Any last words?
Just a thank you, Cameron. It's so great to connect with you. I love following you. I love the value that you're adding to people. You're one of those people that adds value, and I so appreciate that. And it's great to finally connect and look forward one day. Hopefully, we get to shake hands and meet in person.
There you go. Appreciate it so much. All right, guys, this is the end of the episode. I told y'all, season two, we're going out to find quality people, people who not only are doing it, but have done this at a very high level. We want to give you guys tangible things. They're sharing their journeys, what they could have done better, what they've seen happen to the market over. We didn't even get into, dang, Jonathan, we didn't even get into like how marketing has changed from 2010 to now. Dang it.
We can do another
See,
if you
that's
want.
what.
You let me know.
Yeah, we may have to because I know that you probably got a lot in. We may do a part two, but we thank you so much for your time, guys. Make sure you like this episode, share it with somebody who needs it, somebody who maybe working with their spouse, somebody who's trying to balance two businesses. These are the type of people that need to hear these episodes. So, guys, thank you so much. Until the next episode, stay safe, take care of yourself. Peace.
Thanks. Bye.